Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Luke Canellis from Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me this week on First and North, let's bring in the crew. The voice of the Detroit Lions from Fox 2 in Detroit, Dan Miller. From Fox 6 in Milwaukee, Lily Zhao. Lily, by the way, you have some fans here in Chicago. I've got Brewers fans hassling me to tell me how much of a fan they are of Lily Zhao and they watch First and North.
Oh, that's so kind. I love that I've got fans in Chicago, so thank you guys. And I just love that people are watching our show, so it means we're putting out a great product. So that's great to hear. Thanks, Lou.
And from Fox 9 in Minneapolis, Pierre Nugent. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's take a look first at the NFC North standings. The North right now, the only division in football where every team has a winning record. Packers leapfrogged the Lions into first place. Green Bay beat Cincinnati. Lions lost to the Chiefs. Don't look now. Bears have won 3 straight and have done so in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 2019-2020. Let's hope things don't work out like they did last year after they won 3 in a row and then lost 10 straight. All right, Lily, Dan, and Pierre, I have a favorite. Can I go first?
Absolutely.
Please.
All right.
Yes.
Because rarely have I been given the chance to open the show and pound my chest about the Bears, but this is one of those times, all right? 2 games in a row. Now where the Bears, what do they say, stole victory from the jaws of defeat. By the way, it's the first time in NFL history a team has won back-to-back games by a score of 25-24. Now, I know the critics are going to say, yeah, big deal, Bears took advantage of a horrible Dallas defense, and they caught Dak Prescott before he got hot, and CeeDee Lamb was out of that football game, or they were one of the few who went to Vegas and, got lucky, or last night they beat a Washington team without its 2 best receivers, Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown. Listen, I know that there are Packers fans watching on WITI in Milwaukee, or Lions fans on Fox 2 in Detroit, or Vikings fans on Fox 9 in Minneapolis that refuse to give the Bears credit. I'm not listening to it. The Bears took the bye week. They got healthy. They worked on their running game, led to DeAndre Swift, who had his best game as a Bear. And they fixed their run defense, which, guys, was historically bad, one of the worst ever. And they held the NFL's top rushing team in check. The Bears finally got a break. Yeah, the Daniels fumble, but they took advantage of it, and they delivered their biggest win in years. So, Dan Miller, guess what? Watch out. We are coming to get you.
Hey, listen, don't apologize for a win, even if they were a little fluky. But listen, they're playing some decent football. They made some plays when they had to make them. If Washington's going to fumble the ball away, you got to be there to take it and then take advantage of it. That's just the way it goes. In this league, you never apologize for a win. Somewhere along the way, you made plays to put yourself in position to get one. And then if you're in position to get a break at the end of it, that's good too. And as far as roster construction and other teams having injuries, look, man, everybody's missing players. So you need to take advantage of that. If somebody's down a couple of guys, find a way to take advantage of it and win the game, because nobody's going to feel sorry for you when you're missing a few guys and you only get 17 cracks at this thing.
All right,
one question, Lou. Have we figured out who Ben Johnson was talking to yet when he asked him to please be quiet?
No, we have not.
Okay. Just wondering.
But I do want you to hear your good friend Ben Johnson.
Man, let me tell you something. That was a team win. Yes, all 3 phases. Best part of the game was this. Did it go up and down? Yeah. You never blinked, not for a second. Nope. Not for 1 second. That's 3 in a row. And the only thing I need is a little bit more. Good, better, best. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. Never let it rest. Good gets better. Good gets better. And you better get better. You better get better. Bears on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bears!
Oh, man, the sun is shining in Chicago, guys. We love it here. All right, I want to get into the Lions, Dan. Enough about the Bears. Lions lost at Arrowhead, and the offense has had better days. Patrick Mahomes posted his highest passer rating in a regular season game in over the last, 3 seasons, which really shocked me. And frankly, the officiating stunk. And I watched every minute of that game, and I thought it was awful, the officiating. Which bothered you most about Sunday night's loss?
Well, I would say it was, for me, the thing that bothered me was the uncharacteristic mistakes that the Lions made. Look, as far as Mahomes, man, he was terrific. And it was hard to get any kind of rush on him because he was getting the ball from center and firing it. I mean, he wasn't getting his feet set. He wasn't stepping into the throws. He was just getting it out of there sometimes. And he made the Lions pay, and the Lions were hurting in the secondary in terms of injuries. But like I said, nobody's going to feel sorry for you. You've got to find a way to get it done. But it was a strange game in terms of the mistakes the Lions made. You're up 10-6. You're driving, 4th and 2. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes low to catch a ball that he catches 999,000 and whatever, 99 out of a million times, and you drop the ball. I mean, what are you going to do there? I mean, you're going to criticize Amon-Ra St. Brown? One guy I'd never worry about is him, but that cost him a drive. Aiden Hutchinson, costly 15-yard penalty later in the game. So just some mistakes that I looked at, Lou, and said, you know what? Some losses you come out of and you don't feel great about. Some losses you come out of and you say, a lot of that was on the mistakes that we made. You can clean them up. And I think if they went back and played Kansas City again, it's another 50-50 game. It's just a game where Kansas City played better on that night.
All right, Dan, I want to talk about the end of the game coming up, but I want to get Lillian and Pierre as well. Lily, a lot going on in Milwaukee right now. Josh Jacobs, he goes into Sunday's game not feeling well. I saw a clip pregame where he told people that he was going to have 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, that he topped that number. And what's crazier on the clip that I saw, he's laughing throughout every hit he takes.
Yeah, he's got that psycho mentality, which I think people love about Josh Jacobs, but it was kind of an illness game for him too. He was not feeling good. He was kind of heaving during the game, before and after as well. So he was really going through it himself with an illness. But just the way he came out and performed, you would have never known that, right? He was really steady on the ground for the Packers, had 2 key touchdowns that they desperately needed, and kind of found some ground in the running game after a couple slow starts to start the year. So it was a nice combined game for Josh Jacobs from the air and the ground. But yeah, it was definitely like a Michael Jordan flu game for Josh Jacobs, and the Packers needed every bit of it from their star tailback.
All right, I want to get into the Vikings. They enjoyed the bye week. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy returned to practice. Here's head coach Kevin O'Connell.
Very excited to get him back officially practicing. I don't necessarily want to put a percentage on where I think he's at health-wise, and I think this week will be massive for our whole team. But just to see JJ back out there getting reps and working through the process of building that foundation back up, and we got off to a really good start last week. I was very fortunate to get that time with him.
All right, it's the big question in Minnesota. Minneapolis, Pierre Nugent, do you think McCarthy starts this week against Philly?
Lou, I wish I had a firm answer for you, but we still don't have a firm answer just yet. We're obviously going to get a better idea tomorrow when the first injury report comes out. But right now, Kevin O'Connell would not commit, as you kind of just heard, to J.J. McCarthy being the starter on Sunday. And, of course, Carson Wentz coming out of that game against Cleveland a couple of weeks ago, still nursing a little bit of a sore left shoulder. It's not his throwing shoulder, so that's the good news for Carson Wentz. But right now, we don't have a definitive answer as to whether or not J.J. McCarthy will be the starter on Sunday. It's certainly trending in a positive direction with him being back in practice. But like you said, like you heard right there with Kevin O'Connell, not fully committed to J.J. McCarthy this week. But as you see right there on the practice field, going in a positive direction, we'll have a better idea on Wednesday when the first injury report comes out.
All right, we'll hear more about what's going on with the Vikings when I come back to you. Brian Branch suspended for a game for the Lions for starting a fight with the Chiefs receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. I want you to listen to Branch and Dan Campbell after that game.
I did a little childish thing, but I'm tired of people doing stuff in between the play and refs don't catch it. Like, they be trying to bully me out there, and I should have never did it, but it was childish.
I love Brian Branch, but what he did is inexcusable. And it's not going to be accepted here. It's not what we do. It's not what we're about. I apologize to Coach Reed and the Chiefs and, and Schuster. That's not okay.
Those are some strong comments, Dan. In his career, Branch has been flagged, I read, 19 times since entering the league back in 2023. But what was even more striking is he's been fined more than $100,000 in parts of 3 seasons. This is not the type of character that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell want on their roster. How much more are they going to put up with?
Yeah, I think in terms of character, he is the kind of guy they want. I think in terms of this behavior that he is having on the field, he's got to get that under control. He's been fined more than a dozen times now, and it's pushing $250,000. And now he's in that repeat offender phase where everything that he does is going to be judged off that he's done before. So, look, Brian did something you can't do. If you want to take care of something during the game, shove somebody, whatever it is, that's going to look a lot better than on national television, the only game on, everybody's out there at the end of the game, and you go up and take a swing at an opposing wide receiver. I understand that he wasn't happy with the way things happened. That's when you have to call an official in and try to get something done. That's when you just have to try to find another way to handle that. But you can't handle it the way that Brian Branch did. I think everybody in Kansas City on Sunday night after the game, once we saw the replay, thought he's going to be suspended. Now he's been suspended. We'll see whether or not the appeal, which I don't think will get him anywhere, brings any sort of leniency. I think the problem is he's going to now miss this game against Tampa Bay coming up on Monday night, and that's a significant part of their defense that they're going to be missing. But back to the original part of it, Lou, he's a really, really good young man who's just got to find some way to take his foot off the gas sometimes in games.
I'm glad that you separated character and behavior. We need to take a timeout. We give you the latest injury news around the NFC North when we come back here on First and North.
Michigan takes on Washington. It's Big Noon Saturday on Fox.
Welcome back to First and North. Lou Cadellis at our Fox 32 studios in Chicago. Dan Miller is at Fox Detroit. Lily Zhao, Fox Milwaukee. Pierre Nugent, Fox Minneapolis. All right, Pierre, I'm going to start with you. Blake Cashman posted a picture of himself in uniform with the caption, "Back to the bank." Now, he's not going to return to the bank. He's going to come back in Philadelphia. But how important is he for that Vikings defense?
Vital, Lou. He's absolutely vital. There's no question about it that this defense is a heck of a lot better when he's on the football field. And when you look at this defense in particular, led by Brian Flores, they have been one of the better units over the last couple of seasons. However, this season in particular, they are 24th against the run. That has been a little bit of a bugaboo for this defense. And you can really point to Brian Cashman not being in the lineup as a reason as to why they have not been as good against the run this season. So if he is healthy enough and deemed healthy enough to return to the lineup Sunday against Philadelphia, that's going to be a big shot in the arm for this defense because they've really missed him over the last few weeks. We haven't seen him since he went out with injury in week 1. So Blake Cashman would certainly be a big addition to this Vikings defense if he's able to come back healthy this Sunday.
Pierre, is everyone expected to come back that's out except for Andrew Van Ginkel?
For the most part, yes, Lou. And Andrew Van Ginkel is still nursing that neck injury. He was off to the side on his own at practice today. And Kevin O'Connell would not give a firm timeline. He told the media, he said, there's no real timeline as of right now for Andrew Van Ginkel, other than he's making progress and they're hoping to get him back relatively soon. But he wouldn't put an exact timeline on it. So that neck injury sounding like it's a little bit worse than what they had originally thought. But he was on the practice field, albeit off to the side. But don't expect to see Andrew Van Ginkel back on the field this Sunday.
All right, Lily, I was crunching the Green Bay numbers, the Green Bay defensive numbers, and that defense has given up 52 points in the second half of games so far this season. That's more than 3 times as many points as they've given up in the first half. Matt LaFleur was asked about it, and he actually brought up conditioning. You think maybe this team just isn't conditioned or not in great condition shape right now this early in the season? I mean, it's a little stunning, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say conditioning could be a part of it. I also think the halftime adjustments are a huge part of it. And when you talk about the 2 quarterbacks they faced in their last 3 games, Joe Flacco twice and Dak Prescott. I mean, Dak Prescott played out of his mind. Joe Flacco, a veteran quarterback, they made adjustments in the second half to get the ball out quick, and that negated their pass rush. So that was just what these last two teams have been able to do, or last two quarterbacks have been able to do against this Packers defenses. They're not going to get anything deep, but they're going to nickel and dime this defense, and it has worked to perfection. So that is something that Jeff Hafley needs to figure out how to counteract if now teams are kind of putting a blueprint together of how to beat the Packers defense in the second half especially. I mean, this has been an issue in the past in Green Bay of the defense can't really hold their own in the second half, in that fourth quarter especially. And yeah, we can talk about conditioning being an issue, but I think it's just the execution factor of it, of guys just not being able to execute in those money down situations. And that is what is really hurting Green Bay, because in a game against the Bengals, I mean, my gosh, you can't be giving up a 17-play, 10-minute drive to Joe Flacco and this Bengals team. So something to really learn moving forward, because this is a manageable part of their schedule where they can make those mistakes, but going into division play later in the year, they cannot be doing this. Dan, let me fire away on you about a couple of injury updates. First of all, how is Kirby Joseph's knee?
We're going to find out. Kirby obviously had to leave that game, but he did come back. And the question now is, they've had a couple of guys, Taylor Decker chief among them, that they have given some rest to try to see if they can quiet down some injuries. Kirby's been dealing with a knee for a while now. He did finish the game, which is a good sign. They do have an extra day of rest before they go to Tampa. And it looks like they won't have Brian Branch, so I know they'd like to have Kirby out there. But, Lou, that's one that I think they're going to have to get into the practice week and see where he is with that knee before they know whether or not he's going to be able to play.
Timeline on DJ Reed?
I still think that's going to be a while before you see DJ Reed again, probably mid-November to late November at best before you get him back out there. So that's a couple of pieces of your secondary that won't be there. Probably the guy that I would see to keep an eye out for, maybe Avonte Maddox, who can give him some help at safety. In particular, if Branch isn't there, can play some nickel. He missed this past week with a hamstring. But it right now is going to be roll call at practice, and then see how some of these guys get through practice before they know exactly who's going to play on Monday. It's interesting because Tampa Bay's beat up at receiver and the Lions are beat up at secondary, and it's just going to be a matter of who can get out there in that matchup come Monday night.
How about Terry and Arnold?
TA, I think, is still a ways off. They got a better report, and as Dan Campbell explained it, what that better report meant was that they're just going to be able to rehab it instead of sending him directly to surgery, which was going to be the long-term prognosis where he'd miss time. So that is not in the cards right now unless this thing doesn't get any better. But still, even with that, even with surgery on the shelf for the moment, he's still got to rehab this thing. He's still got to lift weights, make it stronger, and see if he can get back to the point where he can play. The good news was surgery was going to put him into probably December, if not later. This way, they may be able to get him back here at some point, maybe late October or sometime in November.
Do you have good news for me regarding Aleem McNeil?
Yeah, I think so. He was a full go. I was actually a little surprised he didn't play this past week. I think that's them just trying to be smart. But he was a full go in practice last week. I think if he's a full go this week, when they get back out there, got a couple of days off here with the extra day, not playing until Monday. I think if Aleem shows them what they need to see, and again, doesn't have to sit out, and there isn't any issues with that knee, I would anticipate that this would be the week that you would see Aleem, back in the middle of that defensive line.
All right, thanks for the updates. Pierre, we talked about the injured offensive line last week in Minnesota. Carson Wentz, 32 years old. He's been sacked at least 3 times in each of his 3 starts, and if Carson Wentz starts or just plays in this game, I read where Kevin O'Connell wants him to do a better job of protecting himself, right?
Yeah, there's no question about it, but also I think they're going to get a little bit of good news on the injury front when it comes to the offensive line. Donovan Jackson back at practice, right tackle Brian O'Neill also back in practice, and the backup center Michael Juergens, who did not play 2 weeks ago against the Browns, he's also back at practice, and they're really going to need him because Ryan Kelly is currently on injured reserve. So if they could potentially have Donovan Jackson and Brian O'Neill back at left guard and right tackle respectively, that would be a huge boost to this Vikings offensive line. No matter who's back back there at quarterback, whether it's Carson Wentz or whether it's J.J. McCarthy. That would certainly be a very welcome sight to have both of those players out there on Sunday and beyond, because they both played, especially Donovan Jackson. You got to give him credit for being a first-round rookie. Has played pretty well in those first 3 games. We haven't seen him since week 3 against Cincinnati. That would be a very big boost on the left side of the line to have him back there to pair up with Christian Darrisaw on the left side of the line. So there's good news trending for this offensive line right now.
All right, Bears really got healthy during the bye week. Everyone except for Grady Jarrett was out there. They don't win last night's game without their running game finally kicking into gear, and there were 4 reasons why. I thought about this. Number 1, Ben Johnson, he admitted he has an affinity for running the football, actually more than what people may think, may realize. His Lions teams ran the football effectively. We have discussed it with Dan on this show. 11th in the league in 2022, 5th in the league, and if I'm not mistaken, in 2023, 6th last season. You would think with all the points that Detroit put up the last 3 years with Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator, it would be all about throwing the football, and that's not been the case. They need to run the football in the Ben Johnson offense effectively for everything else to work out. Number 2, right tackle Darnell Wright was back. Even with the bad elbow, this guy was a warrior. He came up with key blocks in the open field. Number 3, Theo Benedict, first NFL start at left tackle. This guy created a spark in the run game, and Theo held it together with the other guys up front. And finally, I can't say enough about DeAndre Swift, because DeAndre Swift has taken a beating for his lack of rushing yardage since he's been in this town. Before yesterday, he hadn't delivered off the $24 million free agent contract that he signed with the Bears last year, but he did last night. He ran for over 100 yards, almost 8 yards a carry. That just blew my mind. And his number was called on 4 of the first 7 plays. So you were watching Ben Johnson determined to get that running game going with DeAndre Swift. And that last drive, his 15-yard carry on 2nd and 12, from the Washington 33-yard line with 1:14 left. That put the Bears in field goal range. That may have been the biggest play of the night for the Bears. All right, we need to take our final timeout. We preview Week 7 matchups around the NFC North when we return right here on First and North.
If Cornell suddenly had Tom Brady's football knowledge, he would consider that knowledge a gift at first.
Play action and shotgun isn't as convincing to the linebackers as the hard counts don't travel like that, you know what I'm saying? So you're gonna have the wide receiver lined up over here on the split, you know what I'm saying?
They did not, as it turns out, know what he was saying.
I know what you're saying, Cornell. Are these free?
Nobody knows football like Tom Brady.
Absolutely.
Nice.
All right, here are the matchups for Week 7 in the NFC North. Sunday, Bears back home take on the 1-5 Saints. Vikings off the bye take on the Eagles, who have dropped their last 2 games. In the second window, Packers head to Arizona. They'll battle the Cardinals. Monday Night Football, another primetime matchup for the Lions. They host the NFC's best team right now, the Buccaneers. I'll start with Dan. Dan Miller, Dan Campbell is 12-0 following a loss since October of 2022. Does he keep it up?
Yeah, I think they can. They're going to be at home. This is going to be a lit crowd for this game. They've got to find some way to corral Baker Mayfield and get him down. And the offense has to score points consistently. The offense is going to have to lead again in this game until that defense can get healthy.
Packers got the Cardinals, Lily. Cardinals may be better than their record reflects where they are right now, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. Packers can make the same case, right? But listen, they're going to be happy not to be facing Joe Flacco or a truly veteran quarterback. So Kyler Murray, Jacoby Brissett, bring it on. The Packers defense needs to turn things around. I think this is a great game for them to do so.
All right, Pierre, I'm sorry, but I think the Vikings are really catching the Eagles at the wrong time. Philadelphia has dropped 2 in a row. There's no way they're going to lose 3 straight.
Well, I don't know about no way, but it certainly feels like a much more winnable game now than it did a couple of weeks ago. But, you know, if I'm being honest with you, Lou, you know, this looks like 2 teams that really don't really have much of an identity on offense right now. You know, Philadelphia is only 25th running the football in the National Football League. And how can you trust this Minnesota offense right now with either J.J. McCarthy or Carson Wentz at the helm? Hard to trust that offense right now. I think it's going to be a struggle for Minnesota on Sunday.
All right, guys. Bears host the 1-5 Saints. Better be 4 wins in a row for the Bears, or you know how I'll be next Tuesday on this show. I will be ripping. All right, great show as always. For Dan, Lily, and Pierre, we always have fun. I'm Lou Canellis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week here on First and North.